You're listening to Win-Win, an entrepreneurial community with your host, Ben Wolf.
And welcome to Win-Win, an entrepreneurial community. As always, I am your host, Ben Wolf, Wolf Edge Consulting. You can learn on this episode how to make your business give you the life that you will love. That is the topic today. Encourage people, as always, to subscribe, leave a review, and make this show more accessible. The knowledge that we are sharing more accessible to yourself in the future, to other people by doing so. Again, leave a review, subscribe, follow, whether it's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you're listening to this, Google Podcasts, whatnot. So I encourage you to do that. And with that, I want to get into introducing our guest today. Very happy to have a very, very cool guy that was introduced to me by Kelly Knight, actually the integrator at EOS Worldwide, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, like kind of managing organization at EOS Worldwide. And so the integrator there, the COO, Kelly Knight, introduced me to our guest today. So very, very honored to have him and to have that connection made and to start that relationship. He is a certified EOS implementer, meaning he helps businesses implement the EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System framework, into their businesses to get more of what they want from their businesses through his company, Grip Business Traction. After serving for over 5 years in the United States Marine Corps, he was the founder and owner of a real estate development company for over 13 years. Now, like I said, he's an EOS, a certified EOS implementer. You can find out more about him and his business at griptraction.com. I have to spell many of the URLs on this show, but this one I do not have to spell. griptraction.com. And I give you Ryan Henry. Welcome.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me. I better mind my business knowing that Kelly Knight is potentially listening. Shout out to Kelly Knight at EOS Worldwide.
Yes.
Good to be on the podcast with you, Ben.
My pleasure. I'm happy to have you. And yes, you better be on your best behavior. And
I can't promise that, though. I am not a Kelly Knight. Kelly Knight's an integrator, and I love integrators because I am not one.
Okay. You should love me also then. But anyway.
I do.
Well, all right. Enough of the silliness. Stop that silliness, as Monty Python, used to say. But anyway, so first thing is, like I ask all the guests, if you could please give us like a quick 2-minute history and background and kind of where you got here is not necessarily reflected on your LinkedIn that got you to be talking about and focused on, obviously helping people implement EOS, but there's a particular focus on the EOS Life here. How did you get from wherever you came from to this point?
Yeah, of course. So introduced to EOS 3 years into my own entrepreneurial career by my accountant, who was Don Tinney, the first ever integrator with Gina Wickman.
Wow. Yeah, co-founder of EOS.
Yeah, my accountant's client was Don Tinney.
Wow.
So I was introduced to EOS pretty early on. This was late 2008. And like in EOS, we talk about hitting a ceiling. I didn't have that language at that point, but I was hitting a ceiling of complexity, feeling overwhelmed, feeling like I kind of had fog of war about what my priorities were, feeling like I was herding cats, and feeling like things were very chaotic. Now, we were
for a second, I thought you meant herding cats with a T, and I got really worried for a second there.
Well, that's a different conversation, I suppose. But herding cats, like where like when you tell somebody to do something,
no, I get it.
They just go all over the place. They don't listen, right? But what that meant was my life was not simple. It was quite complex at that point. Yeah, my life was wasn't delegating things to other people. It seemed like, although I thought I was, stuff kept coming back to me. That was definitely frustrating because I thought, man, the more people I hire, it seems like the more stuff I have to do. I thought it was supposed to be the other way around. We call that in EOS, your delegation system isn't delegating down, it's throwing up on you, which is quite a key.
I don't think I heard that one yet. Wow.
Yeah. These are all the pithy things I came up with looking back in EOS. I definitely felt like I couldn't determine what my priorities were because I had a lot of ideas and I had a lot of issues, but I had this vision I wanted to pursue, and it felt like I had to let go of one to do the other. And that was really hard because I pursued the vision. That's what I knew we should do, but I didn't deal with the issues. If I just dealt with the issues, it just felt like all I did is put out fires. So it felt very pulled in two different directions in that regard. That herding cats, that means that we just didn't have a system, although I was exposed to Michael Gerber's E-Myth and read it and really impacted by it. I was really realizing very quickly that I had the wrong people in the wrong seats, like Jim Collins talks about.
Yeah.
Or I had the wrong people in the right seats, or I had right people in the wrong seats. We can talk about that another time. It just meant I was frustrated with people. Didn't matter what kind of process we put together. The right people don't care about the right processes. And the last was we didn't have a structure in place. So I was exposed to all the stuff that Gina was exposed to early on in my entrepreneurial career, Jim Collins, Patrick Lencioni, and Michael Gerber, not some of the others like Dan Sullivan, like Gina was, but I was exposed to that stuff. And although I knew about that stuff, I wasn't in a place where I knew how to apply it. So we were an award-winning construction management real estate development company, and I felt very much alone, like many entrepreneurs do. Any entrepreneur listening to me right now, you know what I'm talking about. You're quote unquote succeeding in spite of yourself. A couple pieces about that. You mentioned the Marines. What people maybe not know is that I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, and this relates to the EOS Life because the worst part of where I was when I first got introduced to EOS in 2008 was I was like, oh snap, oh crap, maybe some other words I shouldn't say in your podcast. Because I was like, oh my goodness, I'm now repeating what I grew up in. I didn't become an entrepreneur to be like this. I thought maybe I could hell. So when we talk about being an entrepreneur, I think we always talk about it from the perspective of what we want out of it personally as well. And I think that what our topic today about is the EOS Life. Why it's relevant is because I know that my father and my grandfather would have loved EOS. They were great visionary entrepreneurs, but they did not know EOS, nor that there was another way to live. And the EOS Life, when I was exposed to EOS, was the compelling thing. EOS is all about running a better business and having a better life. Like Simon Sinek says, the why we do things matters. What we do in EOS is help entrepreneurs facilitate the implementation of EOS. That's what I do as an implementer. I teach EOS, I coach implementers, or I coach companies implementing it and help facilitate it. That's what we do to strengthen the 6 key components of their business. The why we do it is the life, in my opinion. I think that's the why we do it. And this is the EOS Life. And
yeah, well, we didn't even define that term yet. So maybe that's a good time to ask. So the next thing I was going to ask is, what is the EOS? What is that term? I say that's not a well-known term. So what does that mean?
Yeah. The EOS Life is doing what you love with people that you love, making a difference. It's like a debt in the world, being compensated appropriately, and having a place where you can pursue other passions. And why this was so compelling in 2008 and up until today, and how I'm here, which was the transition of realizing that the EOS Life was lived best for me, was helping others implement EOS. So I sold my business to become an implementer, an entrepreneur, if you will, for other entrepreneurs. And the life is why I do what I do, and it's why I've made really every decision since that point, because I refuse to live my entrepreneurial life any other way, and I want to get the good news, if you will, out to the world of entrepreneurs. There's a better way to live your lives. And what I love about EOS is it's proven that if we just stay focused, like Gino teaches us, just stay focused on strengthening the 6 key components, not only will we run a better business, which is amazing, it's fantastic, but the icing on the cake is we get a better life, the EOS Life. That's the promise. So that's the EOS Life.
Can you drill down a little bit into some of those elements? And if you can, and I don't know, maybe I shouldn't combine too many questions, but if you can, like, connect, totally like, okay, how do the tools of EOS like lead you to those 5, to getting to those 5?
Yeah.
Those 5 elements.
Let's break that down. And in that, I'll any entrepreneur thinking about this. I want you to think about it from a question standpoint. So I'll tee it up like this. Let's just go back to the top real quick and then I'll break it down. So the EOS Life, number one, it's doing what you love. So, hey, entrepreneur, even an entrepreneur team member, are you doing what you love? Dan Sullivan talks about the stuff you don't love, the crappy stuff.
Yep.
What that really truly tangibly means is that we're going to literally get rid of, delegate out of your life all of the stuff you don't love. Now, for me, I hate email.
Mm-hmm.
I hate scheduling stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I hate emails. I just don't want to do email. I don't want to run my schedule. So I delegate that to somebody else which is amazing to me. My assistant, she for some reason loves to do email and loves to do scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that's the second piece, right? With people that you love. And you love to work with people that love their job. And my assistant in that regard loves her job. The second piece of the EOS Life is working with people that you love. I would say for the visionary that's your integrator, right?
Yeah.
Somebody that takes all
at least.
Takes all the day-to-day leading and managing and holding accountable of the company, running the company profit loss centered, executing the business plan, removing obstacles and barriers, and executing your special idea projects into the company. That's what an integrator does, and that's why visionaries, if you don't love your integrator, well, that's a really big issue. But
yeah,
that's working with people that you love. And we can keep kind of asking more questions about it, but I thought I might just tease each little piece out.
Mm-hmm.
Making a difference as if, doing what you love and working with people that love doing what they're doing isn't enough. Making a difference is just a dent in the world that your business and your people are out there changing the world. And well, we are crazy in the US. We believe that entrepreneurs are on the leading edge of changing the world. So that's making a difference in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Being compensated appropriately, how I think about this sometimes is when I meet entrepreneurial teams, they're all doing, quote unquote, everything. So there's a lot of ambiguity about who's responsible for what,
right,
and what they're responsible for. So when we build out an accountability chart, we begin to determine what actually it is you're supposed to do. And then we can better determine the metrics behind that to determine if you're doing your job. And then we can also determine, well, in order to do that job strong, what do we need to invest in that seat? And well, the person who's sitting in the seat. So then we can say, oh my gosh, I know what I'm doing. I love doing it. And I'm actually being paid appropriately for it. And then lastly, time to pursue other passions. Most entrepreneurs and their leadership teams, but specifically entrepreneurs, do not have time to do other things.
Right.
Like be a good husband, right? Like a father, to have time to take vacations. I meet a lot of entrepreneurs and they'll say, you know what? And they say it kind of like with a badge of honor, like I even work on vacation. And I'm like, oh, that sounds horrible.
Right.
When do you not work? Like, so time to pursue other passions it could be other businesses, but it's your family, your faith, your life, right?
Right. Hobbies, exercise, whatever.
Yeah. So kind of hard to believe that actually can happen. But that's a little tease out. And
yeah, where have you seen that?
Talk about that?
Well, yeah, maybe we can dive in a little deeper into some of those, but like where have you seen with people who succeeded in going from A to B, who succeeded from going to where they weren't doing the parts of the job they love, they weren't necessarily working with people they loved working with, they weren't sure they're making a difference, or they weren't getting paid enough, or they didn't have time for anything else in their lives, any passions or projects or causes or family, etc. And then they went, or maybe they had one or two of those, but then they went to living, quote unquote, EOS life. Like, do you have anybody you could tell us about?
Sure. I can think about a visionary that I know that and this is common for most visionaries. Visionary synonymous being the founding entrepreneur. If you're curious, if you think you're a visionary, that would be, well, you come up with a lot of ideas and you're constantly showing up to your meetings with 20 ideas, like 19 of them should never be spoken about in the public. 5 could probably kill the company, but 1, if we could get our hands around it, could change all of our lives. big ideas, big relationships, R&D, big sales, stuff like that. That's visionary, folks. So if you are one, maybe you're also leading and managing and trying to hold your people accountable day to day. Maybe you're trying to figure out how to put a business plan together or try to execute on that business plan. Maybe you're trying to not do those things and trying to delegate those things to your team. So I had a visionary, his name was Matt, and he was both. And he coined this term a number of years ago, and he said, Ryan, I'm not just the visionary, I'm the integrator. And I went, yeah, you're both. And he goes, yeah, I'm both. I'm like the Visinator. And I said, the Visinator? And he goes, yeah, I'm like the Terminator. I'm
like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I'm part machine. And all I do is I kill people, and his team's over there kind of in the corner like trembling, right? Like, so most visionaries have a hard time being an integrator, being both. And I say most, I mean like almost all. There are like a few rare exceptions, but almost all. So Matt decided, well, I don't want to be the integrator. We're right in the session. He's like, I don't want it. I mean, I get what it is. I totally get what it is. And I have been doing it, but I don't think I've been doing it. Man, I've been doing it okay. I never forget, his leadership team was like, "You're do something," like under their breath. And I said, "What was that?" And Susan, who was in finance, was like, "Man, I love you, and you're everything visionary, but man, you're not. I mean, you're not good at this integrator stuff that Ryan's talking about. Like, you're not good at it. Like, you're not good at it at all."
And he was like, "Oh, I thought I was 80%.
Yeah, he's like, "Really? Am I really bad?" And then I was like, "All right, brave one left. Everybody share." And it was like, "We love you, but you suck at this." And he let go of it right there in the session room.
Wow.
And he didn't know if somebody was on the team that could be the integrator, but there was. And there was a guy named John. And John was like, "Actually, I actually do a lot of that stuff." And Matt's like, "Yeah, no, he does do a lot of that stuff." And Matt let go of sales and marketing. A lot of visionaries are doing sales and marketing, but they're not really running a CRM. They're not, got all
Metrics
the Google
based.
Analytics and hitting all the metrics. They're just doing big relationship stuff. So Matt let go of all of it. Matt was working about 100 hours a week, like literally. He was working every single day of the week, and he just didn't know there was another way to work. He walked out of that session room from sitting in 4 seats. We got rid of his what we call don't like and not good, or hate and not good. He got rid of all of that. That was all found in operations, and the team's like, "We don't even need you there. You're just in the way." And he got rid of all those.
So what happened?
He got rid of all the hate and good, because he hated, but he was pretty decent at sales, and they had a sales guy that could run the team and set structure and stuff like that. So he got rid of that.
Right.
And he got rid of the integrator seat. Walked out of the room after about 8 hours with only 1 seat. Life exponentially changed. He works about 50 hours a week now.
It's like half
every weekend.
I mean,
off.
it's still a decent amount, but it's like half of before.
He's a hard charging visionary. He's in
Right.
the office. He's working and I say working though, he's only in his office for about 20 hours a week. About 2 days a week he's actually in the office.
Mhm.
Otherwise he's out on the streets talking to people, stuff like that. Exponentially changed his life. Only does the things that he loves to do, his unique ability. And his wife told me, like, "Man, I'm glad he met you." And I said, "Why is that?" We were at a Christmas party. She's like, "Well, man, I love you, honey, so much." And he goes, "She was going to leave me, Ryan." And I'm like, "Oh
wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty big. Changed his life.
Save a marriage, save the lifestyle, save his sanity. It sounds like that wouldn't have worked though if he didn't already have the right people in the right seats, that they were available that quickly. I imagine there's more pain involved sometimes in getting to that point if you can't let go because of the people you have.
That's true. That's totally true. What was interesting about Matt's story is that when I talked to him the first time, we first had an introduction, a buddy of his introduced us, and he's like, "Ryan, I don't think I can do EOS." And I said, "Why is that?" He goes, "I do all those seats you're talking about." And I said, "You don't have anybody?" And he's like, "I'll just bring a bunch of people. You'll have to sort it out." And I said, "Okay, nope, sure, no problem."
Yeah, that's what we do, right?
There was only 1 missing seat. It was HR. And the finance and admin leader said, I'll take it. And I'll just put it into my seat and we'll go find a third-party HR person. We walked out with a full leadership team. It doesn't always happen, but it happens often.
Right.
Yeah, they're actually all there.
Right. Which is great. Yeah. And but it's just it's a tougher process to, when you realize you have people who are the wrong people, that you can't trust them because you can't trust them. And or they're just not reliable enough.
Exponentially makes it so you can't live the life, for sure.
Yeah.
That's just an issue we got.
So it's just a precursor. Okay, we got to find, we got to replace that person or whatever, and that's not easy. But after 2 or 3 quarters, whatever, when you get to the right leadership team, and then you could do it, you still could get to that point. It's it's not impossible. It's just some precursor steps.
Yeah. So for Matt, just that one day changed all 5. He started living all 5 components, which is pretty cool.
And I guess, what about the making a difference part? Like, what is that? Can you speak more about that?
Yeah. So making it real. So when we go into what we call the Vision Traction Organizer, we answer 8 questions on 2 pages, and that's our business plan. And one of the questions we ask is, what's the 10-year target? Like, we're going to set up a journey for 10 years we're going to take as a company.
Right.
At the end of that 10 years, what are we trying to hit? What are we trying to do? And what we say is, what's that team's bigger purpose? What are we trying to accomplish over a 10-year period? And then we couple that with what's called a core focus. It's answering 2 questions. Why do we exist? It's bigger than money. Like, you wouldn't even know what a company is doing when it comes to the why we exist. It's coupled with, well, what's our niche? What do we do? What's the specific thing in the market we do? And the combination of those 2 create what we call a sweet spot. And I say that launches us towards the 10-year target a lot clearer, because we're super focused about what our core focus as a company and organization is. So a lot of times the visionary has this idea of what their vision, where they want to ultimately go, this 10-year target, this focus is, but they're all distracted. They're distracted by issues. They're distracted by just, shiny objects, other ideas they have. And their team doesn't really have a grasp on what the visionary is talking about. So we're trying to get it out of the visionary's head, and then also out of the leader's head, because they all have ideas as well. And we get them wrapped around this bigger purpose they're trying to accomplish. So once they clear the air and get the right people in the right seats, and we then answer these questions, they then can see themselves actually changing their own lives and their community, their clients' lives. So there's a bigger difference, ends up finding ourselves in that why we exist as a company.
Right.
And then we just drive that down into the 90-day world, and they actually start to see themselves making that dent in the world quarter by quarter.
Right. Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's it's really powerful, and I guess, I mean, I guess the last thing before we run out of time that I was hoping to cover was how the EOS tools that you help people implement, like how that connects to or leads to the EOS Life. So I mean, you spoke about some aspects of that, about how you get the right people in the right seats in the organization, so that you can let go of the things you don't like, so that you could be doing the first of the 5 pieces, doing what you love. People you love, I guess, also having the right people comes to that also. What else, I guess, as a tool of EOS, if people are thinking of using these tools, again, just reading Traction, trying to do it on their own, contacting an EOS implementer like your certified EOS implementer like yourself, grouptraction.com, or like myself as a regular EOS implementer, consulting.com, or doing it on their own. But like, what are some of the other aspects of the EOS tools that lead to this life?
Yeah, well, so when we think about an entrepreneur and his or her team and all the ideas and opportunities they see out there in the market, and then as they look into the business or around the business, all the issues they see, I say, hey, look, this is the really coolest thing ever. Most entrepreneurs wake up in the morning going, oh, crap, I didn't get all my to-dos done from the day before, and I got all these things I wanted to do, but I haven't got them done. I feel stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And issues are ideas, opportunities, things that are pissing you off, stuff that's got to get fixed. And I always say, when we go up into the session room, I don't care if it's somebody was supposed to pick the weeds out of the cracks in the parking lot for the last 2 weeks and it hasn't happened, to some zany idea you have in 7 years. It's going to take 7 years to implement. All of them are on our issues list.
Mm-hmm.
So put them on the issues list. And now here's the coolest thing ever. There's stuff we're going to do in the future. Or not. Some of them we're not going to do because they were horrible ideas in the first place. But the release for an entrepreneur and their team, and candidly, every person in the company, they just get to get all that stuff off their heads and off their hearts and off their shoulders. It's
right, because when it's not somewhere it's going to get addressed, then it just plays on repeat in your head, and it feels a lot longer even than actually the number of real issues, because you just keep repeating the same ones again and again.
Yeah. So the why that works on the life so much is that affects you. That takes the emotion of feeling like you failed all the time off.
Mm-hmm.
It gets that off of you. And now you realize, oh, I can leave this at work. We're going to deal with this in the future. We're not going to forget about it. Right. And our team together has looked at all these issues and either turned some of those into rocks, like we talk about, 90-day priorities. Some of them are just to-dos. Some of them are just stuff we need to talk about, make a decision, get a commitment, get some feedback and input, share some information, tell each other some stuff. Some of them we just need to kill because there's nothing there. But it feels amazing because we can leave them there,
right?
Do our job, and then leave work at work and be present. That's what's so powerful. At least I know for me, and I come up with issues constantly. Literally before I was on the podcast with you, shout out to 90.io. I was on my 90.io app and I created 3 issues. Right. And it just takes it off my head.
Yeah.
And actually, I'll be done with my day after our podcast today, and all my issues are harnessed and my mind is clear. And that leaves me time to pursue other passions.
Exactly.
So it's funny. The life sounds kind of ethereal, but it is actually insanely pragmatic and practical. And that's what I love about, Gina Wickman, EOS, and doing EOS with, people like yourself and being part of this great community is.
Yeah.
It actually works. That's the best part about it. It works.
Right. Well, I guess what I'm taking out of that last piece that you're saying is just how critical that issue solving track, that issue solving tool is, about like having a place to put your long-term, your kind of bigger issues that we can't handle today, and your shorter term issues that we can at least talk about today and see where it falls at the leadership level, at each departmental level, that you have that issue solving track, that just what a big piece of living a happier, less harried and stressed life. What a big part of what a big part of that the issue solving track is, and the issue solving technique is. Obviously, again, people can read Traction, Gina Wickman, listen to this podcast. I mean, whatever. But there's a lot of stuff you could look up about there to see the issue solving track. There's good videos on YouTube, and just where that fits into it. And what a great tool that is. And
let me give you one little last zinger here for all entrepreneurs listening here that maybe are curious about EOS, because this is, and Ben, I'm sure you've heard this too. They'll go, Ben, Ryan, good for you guys. You live in the EOS life. I'm not. I want it, but here's what I got to do. Before I do EOS, I got to clean up some stuff. I got to clean up house. And what you're saying, I love you, but what you're saying, let me just tell you the hard truth. Those are the issues. And here's the deal about EOS. EOS doesn't work without issues. Issues are actually the fire for the engine to work in EOS. EOS doesn't work unless we're open and honest about our issues. The thing that you think is the reason you shouldn't do EOS is actually the exact reason why you should do EOS.
Right.
It's like, and that every time the team brings in their issues, they're like, oh, boom, cool, EOS can work now. And then they go, oh my gosh, I'm living a better life. And it's like,
right.
EOS starts with being open and honest. So I've lived hell, and I'm sure, Ben, you've experienced it as well. We all know it. So if you're out there, reach out to us. we'd love to talk to you. That's what it's about.
That's a great. I mean, it's a great point. I just made I don't know if the video was showing it at the time. I just made like a mind blown symbol on my head, like that. Yeah, I think I even had someone this week was like, oh, you got 20 something people in the company, like they could do EOS. They're not too small, and yet, like, oh, but we got to do this and that first. And I talked to somebody earlier this week too. I think actually 2 people this week where I heard a comment like that. So it's just, I gotta noodle over what you just said, and maybe I'll use that. And obviously people can hear it on the show. So
yeah, you can use it all you want. That's good. That's a free one.
Well, I appreciate it. I don't have to pay you 50 cents every time I say that to somebody.
It's all good. It's all good.
You take Venmo. Anyway, I appreciate it. And look, so I appreciate you kind of painting more of a picture. We really have not focused on this kind of EOS life and like the lifestyle and how what you do in your business can get you to the life and kind of also the fulfillment aspects, like professionally what you want to fulfill and timed for the stuff that personally fulfills you. I hadn't really focused on that yet, so I'm glad we're able to do that today. And I'm grateful again for Kelly Knight for connecting us, and just appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience with this, your client's experience with this, and obviously your knowledge as a successful, certified EOS implementer. Just appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate you. Yeah, again, appreciate you coming on, and we'll see everybody else on the other side. Thank you.
You're listening to Win-Win, an entrepreneurial community with your host, Ben Wolf.